Okay, we got one more and we'll be done. 6:5.
Slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear, and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ.
Okay, this one says, bond servants, be obedient to those who are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling in sincerity of heart as to Christ. Okay, so bond servants, and he's talking about slaves, bond servants, and they are obligated to masters. The Bible does not hide these things. It never says that slavery is inappropriate, but it does say, Paul does say, if you can get your freedom, do so. But if you were a slave, here is how you are to conduct yourself. And there's about 8 or 9 verses that Paul very clearly talks about those issues, okay? That is a part of the human condition. It's something that happens. It happens in the world today. I may include something on Sunday's CG report about modern slavery right here in the United States of America. I may not, but we'll see. But it's something that is going on. It is a part of the human condition. In America, it's supposed to be illegal, and so if people do it, they're supposed to be arrested. In some countries of the world, there is still slavery going on, and nobody says anything about it because it's a cultural thing. Okay? But we won't get into that. The point is that the Bible addresses this as something that is a part of the human condition. Whether it's right or wrong is not the subject here. What the subject is if you were in this position, here's what you were to do. Okay, Paul now turns from the immediate family within the household to those who are almost as close, and maybe even closer as far as daily contact is concerned. The term bondservants is as good as one can get from the Greek word doulos. The term applies to one who is bound to the service of another. This could be a voluntary subjection or an involuntary duty. And it can also go so far as being a slave. Their rights were extremely limited, even in the best of cases. In some instances, they have virtually no rights at all. And yet, there is an irony in this status which will be fully revealed in verse 9. Without jumping ahead in too great of detail, it can be said that all are slaves in one way or another, every single person on this planet. For the Christian bondservant, Paul instructs them to be obedient to those who are your masters. Despite the many difficult rigors often suffered under cruel masters, Paul simply makes the command. He doesn't qualify it with if they are good masters, nor does he give any hint that they have a right to rebel. He doesn't do that at all. He never does that. The status of slaves or bondservants was simply a fact of life. Those who were bound were to accept it. However, he does give a note, here it is, concerning this elsewhere that is worth citing, and that's in 1 Corinthians 7. Take you there really quickly. I know I already cited it, but we'll let you hear it right from Paul's hand through the word. 1 Corinthians 7, verses 20. And it says, let each one of you remain in the same calling in which he was called. Were you called while a slave? Do not be concerned about it. But if you can be made free, rather use it. Okay, so he does say that if you can be made free, take advantage of it. But you are not there to go changing things just because you're a Christian. All of a sudden you can rebel against your master. That's not allowed. However, as long as a person was bound, they were to be obedient to their masters. And yet Paul adds on a descriptor for them to consider. It is a master according to the flesh. In other words, there are human limitations which are being spoken of here. Paul is implying that they are bondservants of another as well, which is not according to the flesh. It is for this reason that they were to be obedient to their human master. The same phrase is used again in Colossians 3, verse 22, and by using it, as he does, Paul is letting them know that these human limitations to this human slavery have no control over the spirit. Man may subjugate their bodies, but their spirit is owned by and in the complete control of the Lord. It was an encouragement to them that their time of freedom would surely come. And so for whatever duration of their bondage to human masters, bondservants were to be obedient, as he says, with fear and trembling. This is the same term used by Paul on several different occasions. And it is especially used of a person who is under a special responsibility to the Lord. Even though they are under the will of a human master, they are to be concerned that this will is satisfied. This is to be true even to the point that they would be afraid and ashamed if the master was displeased. Okay, he hasn't said anything about not being an obedient slave. He hasn't said anything about the master being a bad one or a good one. He hasn't said anything about any of those particular issues. He's saying that if you are a slave, you are to be obedient. Now, today, as I said, we don't have slavery, authorized slavery in America, but we do have a job relationship, which really didn't exist in the Roman Empire. You go to work, you earn your pay, you come home, and you do your thing, okay? But while you are at work, the same precept definitely holds true. You are to be respectful and obedient to your boss. Now, that's being lost in this country about as quickly as it can go, but that is what is expected of people. You are hired by that person. He is the one that has been gracious enough to give you the job. And if you're in the government, of course, that doesn't apply. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to show up on time. You can't get fired. And that's the way it is. But this is the way that things are to be conducted. I might even address that. I don't know. But anyway, let's see here. Even though they are under the will of a human master, they are to be concerned that this will is satisfied. This is to be true even to the point that they would be afraid and ashamed if the master was displeased. The desire for this should be so ingrained in them that it is not just an external fear and trembling, but one which is in sincerity of heart. Paul's words, in sincerity of heart. They should truly be concerned that their performance was spotless before their masters, just as it would be to Christ. And this is the way that we are to conduct ourselves in our employment as well. We should never say, I have done poorly and I don't feel bad about it, because you are a reflection of Jesus Christ. You are to say, I've done my very best. And if he doesn't accept it, at least Christ knows that I did my best. They were representatives of Christ. To be slack in their human duties would then reflect on their spiritual devotion to the Lord. Paul wanted this to never be the case. Okay, life application, and we are done just in time. In today's world, here it is, we have employers rather than masters. But the premise of this verse should hold true in such cases. Our duties are to our employers, and they should be performed to the highest degree of trustworthiness as possible. In so acting, they will see that our conduct is without fault and will note that we can be trusted. If this is so, then it may lead them to wanting to know the Lord as well. Everything we do should be geared towards people wanting to know the Lord. Okay, it's not always easy. There are times when we fail at that, but the Lord understands our failings, even if he can't forgive them in the sense that you're not going to get rewards for things that you fail at, okay? But he will forgive you in the sins that you commit because you are in Christ. You will not be imputed sins, but the things that we do that are not appropriate will not get reward, okay? And the things that we do right that are commendable, we will get reward for. This is the good thing about being in Christ. He's forgiven all of the transgressions, all of the sins, and we are setting our own future, whatever is going to happen. I don't know. You know, people ask us all the time, how is it going to be displayed, our rewards? And, you know, it doesn't say. It just says that there are things that will not be rewarded. There are things that will be rewarded. The Lord is perfectly fair in how he does those things. Nothing will be overlooked that you have done for the cause of Christ. Absolutely nothing. And the things that you failed at, they will be burned away. Okay, so trust in that. Know that it's true. But in the meantime, our responsibility is to honor the Lord in whatever position we're in. So